Let's speak to Lindsey, convener of the Stop the War Coalition. Lindsey, what do you make of this news?
Well, I think it's news which we really have to oppose very, very strongly. That what the situation is now is that the British foreign policy has failed again and again. The government has been totally blindsided by what Trump has done in calling for these talks with Russia and already beginning the talks with Putin. Everybody could see this coming, but somehow the British government and other European governments just ignored it and pretended it wasn't happening. Everybody knew that the war was being lost in Ukraine and shouldn't be continued, and there should be a settlement. We said this 3 years ago. We said it couldn't be won. It was a proxy war with NATO. Now we have a situation where Keir Starmer is trying to save face by saying that he's going to send troops on the ground as part of a peacekeeping force, a thing that even Poland today, which is it shares a border with Ukraine, has ruled out. So, and what we get from Grant Shapps is just simply, let's spend more money on defence, which is always what he says, even though all the examples you can talk about, whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's Iraq, or now Britain's support for what Israel has done in Gaza, have all been failures.
And what would you say to his point then, that the security of the UK and our continent is at stake? That's why this is so important.
I think it's complete rubbish, to tell the truth. The idea that Russia is about to invade across the European continent is simply fantastic. It isn't going to happen. Russia has an economy the same size as Spain. Putin is an aggressor against Ukraine. There's no question. I opposed the Russian invasion back when it happened 3 years ago. But this is not a threat to the whole of Europe. And if you look at what is a threat to the whole of Europe, it's much more likely that we are going to create, firstly, greater instability in Europe. Secondly, the growth of the far right, if we continue with these policies which put more and more emphasis on militarism, more and more emphasis on defence spending, and not on creating a better world, a more secure world for people, which isn't mainly through military spending. So it's through providing decent health and housing and all the other things that people need.
Lindsey, do you think then that bringing Putin to the negotiating table was the right thing to do then by Donald Trump?
I think it was absolutely inevitable. I've got no time for Trump. Trump is trying to set out a completely new way in which the United States relates to Europe, and that's a change going right back since the end of the Second World War. So there's a big change happening there. But the truth is, these talks were inevitable. They were going to happen. Zelensky is losing popularity in Ukraine. There is massive opposition to conscription in Ukraine. Many, many people have died, mainly troops on both sides, but it's been terrible level of casualties. It was going to end, and the people who keep saying it shouldn't have ended are people who will fight to the last drop of Ukrainian and Russian blood and not look at what the serious alternatives are.
Yeah, and what to that point then of rewarding this, looking like it's rewarding aggression, Russia's aggression, and empowering, emboldening him?
Well, I don't think it's going to do that. Trump has said that he wants to deal with Putin. Putin always said that his objection to what was going on in Ukraine was NATO membership. That is clearly not going to happen. He also said he wanted certain of the provinces like Crimea and the eastern provinces of Ukraine. Now, that's almost certainly there will be a new border, which will mean that Russia will hold on to some of those things. Now, my position on that is that people have to look at what the reality is on the ground and say that this was always what Putin wanted to do. I don't believe for a minute he's going to invade Poland or anywhere else.
All right. You've made that very clear. Lindsey, thank you so much. Convener of the Stop the War Coalition. Opposing views there, Lindsey and Grant Shapps. What's yours? 88 291.